Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. In just a minute, I'll be welcoming back Rick Renner for the second week to talk about his fascinating new book. In the subscriber-only portion of the program, Bill Koenig will be joining me to talk about an effort right now to remove 500,000 Israelis from the West Bank and an effort by the United Nations to impose a two-state solution. You're going to want to hear that. Right now, I would like to remind you that in just about 10 days, we're going to have our third annual Prophecy Conference on Friday night, September 20th, and all day Saturday the 21st. We're going to have worship, powerful end times teaching, and a special time of corporate prayer on Friday night. I want you to be a part of that, so go to conference.endtimes.com to get your tickets to attend or purchase your live stream pass. And remember, if you're a paid subscriber to endtimes.com, you get a 50% discount. And now I'm delighted to welcome back to the show my good friend Rick Renner. He's the author of many best-selling books that have sold millions of copies in many languages all over the world. He's the overseer of the Good News Association of Churches and founder of the Good News Church in Moscow, Russia. He's joining me again today to talk about his new book, Fallen Angels, Giants, Monsters, and the World Before the Flood. Rick, thanks for joining me again today.
I am thrilled to be with you.
It's good to have you back with me. Now, last week we just got into the introduction last week, and if somebody didn't see this, I hope that they'll go back and watch last week, because it's absolutely fascinating. But we kind of laid the foundation. Fallen angels, giants, monsters, and the world before the flood. So much of the Bible is based on this.
It is.
This is not, we're not going back in history and talking about a bunch of stuff that happened. We're talking about something that happened that's happening today. It affects every day. And it affects actually the second coming of Jesus.
It does.
Yeah. So you talk about in your book, what does the Bible tell us about Noah's Ark? You talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, the biblical account of Noah's Ark is, it's so vivid and so very clear. But when you really begin to study, I document all of it in this book, of the flood stories from around the world, there are 270 flood stories from around the world. From cultures that never contacted each other, but they all tell the same story. And if you compare them side by side, of the 270 flood stories, 80% of them basically tell the same story.
Wow.
That is amazing.
It's totally amazing.
And one of the most ancient records is called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a king, and for a long time it was believed that Gilgamesh was just a legendary figure, but now they know because they have found inscriptions of the kings from Mesopotamia, and Gilgamesh is listed as really one of those kings. And Gilgamesh was a king who went in search of the man who built the ark. And it records the entire story, even describes where he lived. And it's very interesting, Jimmy, that in the Epic of Gilgamesh, it says that after the flood, the builder of the ark, which in the Epic of Gilgamesh has a different name, but the builder of the ark settled below a saddleback mountain. Now, that is really interesting, because today when you go to where the ruins of the ark are, they're just below a saddleback mountain.
Wow.
It is exactly like what is described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And the Bible says that Gilgamesh went there, interviewed him, talked to him about what occurred before the flood, what occurred during the flood, and all of that is recorded in this book. Now, the Epic of Gilgamesh is actually older than the Bible.
Wow.
But the biblical account is the correct account. The Epic of Gilgamesh has a lot of pagan stuff in it, but it has the bare bones of the story of Noah and the ark.
And we talked last week about, you said a flood to cleanse the earth, ancient voices who confirmed the existence of Noah's Ark, and you just go through. The church fathers all talked about it. It was common knowledge.
Tertullian, Jerome, Anaxagoras of Athens. It just goes on and on and on, the voices. Eusebius, Josephus, they all talked about the angels who rebelled against the authority of God, that they metamorphosed and took on a form where they could have sex with women, and the women then gave birth to giants. It is amazing how clearly they all described those events.
Well, it's something that's historical, but what happened, the fallen angels came down.
They did.
We talked about that last week. They mated with human women.
They did. Actually, it says they took women.
Again, by force.
By force. It could have been a kind of an abduction.
Right.
But they took women to mate with.
And so that was the reason for the flood.
That was.
It was to cleanse the earth.
It was a cleanup operation.
Right.
And God gave 120 years, as we discussed in the last program, for people to repent. And I think that's amazing. You know, today sometimes
amazing.
people are in such a rush to judge, but God is never in a rush to judge.
Right.
And in fact, when you read 2 Peter chapter 3, it says that God is long-suffering, not willing that any should perish. That doesn't mean everybody's going to get saved, but God's long-suffering. He doesn't want anybody to perish.
Yeah.
And God was so patient in the days before the flood that he waited until the only family left genetically clean was Noah and his family.
Yeah.
And that's when it was time for the flood to come and clean things up. And something else really interesting to me, Jimmy, now I can't say this emphatically, but I can say it with pretty great surety, that the Garden of Eden was located in Mesopotamia. Well, meso is a Greek word which means in the midst of. Potamia is the word for rivers. It means in the middle of all the rivers. Well, if today you go to the very area where the ruins of Noah's Ark are, that is also where the headwaters are for the Euphrates and the Tigris.
Well, there you go.
And in fact, I was just at the Euphrates River. I just went there.
Wow.
I wanted to see it with my own eyes. So when the ark came to rest, it seems that the ark came to rest nearly in the same area where the Garden of Eden was,
Wow.
where God first said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. So when the ark landed, as only God could do, he caused those currents to bring the ship to the same place to start all over again.
It's a second chance.
To say, let's go at this a second time and do better this time.
Oh my God.
And said the very same words. If you compare the words he said to Adam, the words he said to Noah, they're the same words. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. And think how God gives all of us second chances.
Yeah. That section of your book is so encouraging because you talk about all the different people that God warned
Right.
very patiently and then judged later on. So we're going to get to the place now. We're talking about the end times, and we're starting at the flood because it pertains to everything that's happening in the world right now. Now, one of the fascinating things in your book, Rick, is now the Noah's Ark was actually hidden. It was covered.
It was covered
for many years. When was it discovered?
Well, it first became visible again in May 1948.
May of 1948, when Israel was reborn as a nation.
Same month.
Amazing.
Now, the ark was visible for thousands of years.
Right.
When it was higher up on the side of the mountain. That's where the Silk Road was. And in fact, Jimmy, if you go there today, you can still go to the ruins of the Silk Road.
Wow.
And the people who traveled the Silk Road wrote and wrote and wrote that they would take a detour. They would just go down a little bit down the side of the mountain to the ruins of the ark, where they would take pieces of the pitch and they would turn it into amulets, and they would wear it as souvenirs. Well, you know, why in the world have people been looking on Mount Ararat when the ancient writers told us exactly where it was? It's just a little below the ancient Silk Road.
Wow.
And people went there and visited it for thousands of years, and then, because that is a mud flow, as it slid down the side of the mountain, it became completely covered with mud. Then in May 1948, there was an earthquake. Well, very near there is an ancient Kurdish village. And by the way, all the ancient writers said there was an ancient Kurdish village there. It's all right there.
Wow.
And that earthquake literally shook the mud off the top of that. And in this book, I have photos of what it looked like in 1948. You can see the shape of a ship. And it was discovered by accident by an aerial photographer who was flying over the area to take maps because the border of Iran, the Soviet Union was nearby. They felt like they needed new maps. And a man named Deepen, he was a Turkish captain who was looking at the maps, saw it, and said, "What? This is a ship." And he was so convinced it was a ship that he took those aerial photographs, sent them to Ohio State University to Dr. Brandenburger, who was the #1 scholar and professional on aerial photography, and he was the man who identified all the sites of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there was nobody better.
Wow.
And when Brandenburger saw those photographs, he said, "I have no doubt at all," and I have the quotes in this book, "this is a ship in the lower mountains of Ararat." And that's what began all the investigations.
So you've been there, and you document in your book the size of the ship. Genesis documents the size of the ship. God told Noah exactly how to build it. Do they match?
Exactly. It is exactly 300 cubits long.
Wow.
And for the last 10 years they've been doing ground penetrating radar, electrical scans, and now because of all those scans and the ground penetrating radar, we know there are exactly 3 levels. There are 3 decks in that ship. We know there are multiple rooms and compartments. And when you look at the scans which are in this book, you can actually see the right angles. These things do not appear in nature. And now, there was another big earthquake which occurred in 1958 and 59, and the sides of the dirt began to fall out from the sides of the ship. So now, it kind of just stands out in this mud field. And what is amazing to me is if you look at this ground penetrating radar, there is the complete hull of the ship. You don't even have to imagine it. You can see it in the scans.
And they've done tests. It's wooden. I mean, this is a wooden ship.
Well, it would be petrified.
Petrified. Yeah.
Petrified. Now, the Bible says it was gopher wood. You know, there's no such thing as gopher wood. Nobody ever knew what that meant. Well, now we know, because they have examined pieces of it, and you can see multiple pieces of wood that appear to be glued together. It's laminated wood.
Really?
Which means God gave Noah all the technology that he needed.
Wow.
Now, some people say that there was no bronze, there was no metal at that time, but there was. In fact, the Bible tells us about Cain Tubal, who was a maker of bronze, and they had technology at that time, and they have actually discovered one rivet, and ancient ships had rivets. This was an ancient ship. Wow. And Noah built it exactly like they built all ancient ships. This was just a ship on steroids. I mean, it's massive.
And the book of Enoch that we talked about last week, it talks about that the fallen angels that came down actually taught technology.
They did.
They taught women how to put makeup on.
They did.
They told men.
All right, now wait a minute. That raises a question.
What's that?
So is makeup wrong?
No, my wife wears it. It can't be wrong.
No, my wife wears it. I like it when she wears it. They taught all kinds of sexual things, amours, constraints of passions.
Right.
They taught astrology. You know, all that stuff that we read about in mythology in the ancient world. And by the way, if you travel the world today, you find these ancient megalithic structures.
Oh my gosh.
No one today knows how they could have built them. Well, they built them with the assistance of the fallen angels.
There's no doubt. There in L.A. Marzulli, we were talking about him last week, and he does a lot of documentaries. He documents that
he does.
In South America, in the Middle East and stuff, you have structures that we still don't know how they built them.
I was just on with L.A.
Yeah.
He is brilliant.
He's a brilliant guy. Yeah. And I like his topics. Now this giants after the flood. We've talked about the giants before the flood. There were giants again after the flood.
There were.
And so and Genesis says there were giants on the earth in those days and afterward also.
Right.
So it's referring to the flood.
That's right.
Okay. So you believe there was a second incursion. These were not the same fallen angels because Jude and Peter says they're in prison.
Well, people have all kinds of theories about how the giants appeared after the flood. Some allege, I don't believe this, but some allege that one of Noah's daughter-in-laws had a strain of Nephilim. I don't believe that. Others say that the giants, a few of them hung out on the peaks of the tallest mountains and therefore they survived. Some people believe in the hollow earth, and they believe the giants went into the earth and that's how they survived the flood. There are actually some who allege that the giants hung onto the sides of the ship and somehow that's how they, there's all kinds of silly things.
Yeah.
But it seems to me the only way this could have occurred again is if there was a second incursion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I tend to believe. And I believe there's going to be another one at the end of the age. And it may already...
We'll talk about it.
It already may be happening.
Talk about it. How do you think it's going to happen?
Well, it tells us that these
you're referring now to the fact that Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah,
it's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. And you said in the Greek that means exactly the way.
Exactly as. The Greek word husper, precisely as Jesus was teaching, there will be a replication of events.
Right.
Now, I love the Bible, and I don't believe you should mess with what it means. That is exactly what Jesus said.
Right.
So if that's what Jesus said, that means there's going to be a replication of events. And of course, you know, Brother Jimmy, that we're living in a time when people are seeing all kinds of things. And there was a moment when, you know, if you saw a UFO or a UAP, an unidentified aerial phenomena, people thought you were crazy. But today they're talking about it in the Senate.
Well, it's a fact.
They're talking about it in Congress.
Yeah.
And these things are really appearing from the heavens.
Well, the U.S. Navy jet is the one that took the very, very highly sophisticated.
Correct.
They have those cameras and tracking one that was going, unbelievable speeds, turning at right angles and stuff. And these are, as we said last week, and Hugh Ross, there's actually a YouTube video from Hugh Ross. He's a Christian astrophysicist. And he says they're not extraterrestrial. They're extra-dimensional.
They're interdimensional.
Yeah. There's a dimension that we can't see, and we know that
correct.
because there are angels around us right now, and we can't see that spiritual dimension. Like Elijah, he said, open the eyes of his servant. And so all of a sudden, he could see in a different dimension. There's a dimension that we can't see in, but these are demons, they're fallen angels, they're whatever. They are appearing to people.
They are.
And they're demonic.
And I believe that in the very near future, there's going to be some kind of a disclosure. I think there's going to be a huge disclosure about these things, and it's going to really shake the faith of a lot of people. I really believe it.
Absolutely.
People are going to wonder, well, then who is Jesus? Was Jesus an alien?
Yes.
I mean, where do we fit into all of this?
But Rick, the 2 Thessalonians says that Satan will come with all power, signs, and lying wonders.
That's right.
And so there's going to be mass deception in the end times, just like there was in the days of Noah.
And that's why we need to teach on this.
Yes.
If you tell people what's going to happen, then when it happens, they won't say, oh me, oh my. They'll say, oh, that's exactly what Jesus said was going to happen.
Yes.
And I think we need to really prepare people, and that's why I wrote this book.
It's a phenomenal book. It's really a reference book. I've studied on a lot of these topics from time to time. Rick puts these together in such a magnificent way, pictures, graphs, charts, all kinds of stuff that just helps you, but very well documented historically, biblically, and all of that. But this pertains to the time that we're living in. We're not talking about something historical. We're talking about something that happened in history that's happening again according to Jesus at the end of the age. And Dan Brown wrote a book that was talking about Jesus swooned on the cross. He didn't die. Then he married Mary Magdalene.
Right.
And they made a movie about that. Millions of people lost their faith.
That's right.
Because they believed more. And by the way, 60 Minutes of all people completely discounted his book in a 60 Minutes episode. It was just trashed. And they proved it. That there's a time happening today that you have to make a determination. Are you a cultural Christian or a biblical Christian?
Well, I am a biblical Christian.
I'm a biblical Christian. And there are a lot of people that are more persuaded by social media and the media than they are by the Bible.
Well, Jimmy, the Bible tells us to know those who labor among you.
Right.
And there are a lot of weird stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
I am actually so committed to know who's talking to me in media that if I'm watching the news and somebody's reporting the story, I want to know who is that reporter.
Yeah.
I want to know who are they, where were they educated, who are their friends,
Yeah.
what's the slant they're bringing to me.
Yeah.
And the same day, and this time when there's so many faces on social media, we need to know who's talking to us. What do they believe?
Yeah.
Who are they accountable to?
Well, the time that we're living in right now, there were giants before the flood.
Yes.
The flood came, there were giants after the flood.
There were. And there were a lot of giants after the flood.
And there was a campaign, obviously, Israel. They were commanded to wipe them out. Were all of the 7 nations that Israel came in and dispossessed, were they all giants?
Nearly all of them.
Wow.
They were Rephaim, they were Anakim, they were Nephilim, they were all...
Zamzummim?
It's a lot of weird names.
Are they just different tribes of the same?
They were just different
outfit?
tribes. All of them had little distinct features from one another. There was even a valley of the giants. I mean, this is not mythology. These were real things that people of Israel faced.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you talk about the book of the giants that you were talking about. It's not Bible, but they were part of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Part of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And it talks about the giants.
It's interesting, and this is the first time I've ever discussed this, but near the site of the ruins of Noah's Ark, there is a grave that contains a giant.
Really?
And it's been covered, it is protected, because they don't want anybody to come and steal the remains that are there. But there's a giant skeleton that is there. I can take you right to where it is.
Oh, wow.
Also in the valley below where the ruins of the ark are, Jimmy, they're the ruins of a house that is thousands and thousands of years old. And on the top of those ruins was constructed a Byzantine church. And the Byzantines constructed this church there because they said those ruins were the ruins of Noah's house in the valley.
Goodness.
It is amazing.
And it's close to where the ark is?
It's about 18 miles.
Oh my gosh.
So when Noah and his boys and his family came off the ark, first of all, they sacrificed to God. Now, brother, I'm going to tell you something. My favorite thing of the whole site is the sacrificial stone. It is there. It is enormous.
Wow.
And so here's the place of the landing. You just go a few hundred meters, and there's a massive, massive stone, and cut right across the top of it is a blood channel. And you can see how the blood flowed right off the top of that ark. And the Kurdish village there, that has been there for thousands of years, identified that as the place where Noah offered his first sacrifice.
Wow.
And Brother Jimmy, I love to go there. I mean, I just get chill bumps when I go there, because you just know this is really where Noah offered his first sacrifice. This is where God smelled the savor of that sacrifice. This is where the rainbow first appeared, and you don't have to imagine very hard to see it. I mean, that's really where it happened. And then the earliest settlement was called Mesha. It's referred to in Genesis chapter 10, verse 30. Well, guess what? The lower part of that mountain to this day is called Mishar. It's a derivative of Mesha. That is the name of that mountain.
Wow.
And just below the Saddleback Mountain are the ruins, which probably date to the first settlement after the flood. And on the side of that mountain are petroglyphs of giraffes, elephants, things that have no basis in Turkey, but they were the animals that came off the ark. It's all right there. And then as the waters went down, well, you can imagine Noah and the animals, they all followed as they went downward as the animals went down. Finally, he settled in the valley, probably near where that Byzantine church was built. And that's where you read all the events that took place between him and Ham and all of that. It all happened. It is all right there.
And it documents the Bible.
It does.
And you do such a great job. This book is just full of, it's a treasure. You know, what I do with some books is I just read, in my quiet time every morning, I just read a chapter. This is one of those books that you need to buy and read. It's a good reference book. It just relates to many issues that you read about in the Bible. It's fascinating reading, though. It's just fascinating. So the giants came, and the children of Israel were commanded to kill the giants.
To kill them.
And they did to a certain extent, but there are giant skeletons all over the world.
There are.
So it's believed that some of them left the area. They, migrated to other areas of the world. Catalina Island, I believe it was early 19th century, had a massive giant skeleton uncovered, and the government came and picked it up. And they don't let you keep. If you find a giant skeleton, they don't let you keep it. And so there's reports of this all over the place. But I saw a documentary that we were talking about last week on the History Channel. And Captain Kirk, William Shatner, was the narrator of this. And they were talking about in Arizona, I believe this is in the 18th century, there was a tribe of red-headed giants.
That's right. There were.
And they were cannibals. And the Indians were terrified of them. But the Indians just decided it's either them or us. They're going to eat us or we're going to kill them. And the Indians ultimately trapped them in a cave.
And burned them.
And the cave is still there with all the burnings. The point is, this is reality.
And if you look at the earliest maps from world explorers, it's very interesting, because on those early maps, they draw pictures of what kinds of peoples lived in all these different areas. And in South America, there were giants.
Wow.
They're pictured right on the ancient maps, that there were giants in this area, there were giants in that area. So this was not an affair which was located only to Israel after the flood.
Well, and so you're talking about the flood, worldwide accounts of that, worldwide accounts of so many of the things we're talking about. The men of renown, the giants came down and were men of renown. Well, this goes back to all of the ancient legends, mythology and stuff. That all of this is their worldwide accounts. Even though they're different cultures, they basically have the same history. And so they're all talking about it. So again, at the end times, Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, it'll be in the times of the coming of the Son of Man. So we never set dates. I know you never set dates, but how close are we to the days of Noah as it relates to?
I think we're living in it. Mm-hmm. But Brother Jimmy, I have to tell you, this book is really different for me. And I was hesitant to write it because so many people who approach these subjects are a little nutty.
Yeah.
I mean, they get off on some really weird, bizarre stuff, and I didn't want to be associated with that. But I think that people know that I've got my head on straight.
Yeah.
And I felt like somebody needed to write a book that documented it from a real logical standpoint, and I believe that's what this book is. But I believe we're living in the repeat of those days. I do. And I think the rapture could happen at any moment.
Yes.
And as we covered in the last episode, that word harpazo, which is translated caught away, describes a rescue operation. You know, some people say, you people that believe in the rapture, you're just escapists. I sure am.
You bet I am.
I am an escapist.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean we hide our head in the sand right now. We help people. We rescue the perishing. We care for the dying. We do everything we can. But the rescue operation, the Greek word harpazo, it means it's going to happen in a pretty bleak moment. Now, there are people who say, and I don't want to dash anybody's hopes, but they say, the world's going to have a great awakening. Things are going to get better. It is not.
No.
That flies in the face of Scripture.
Yes, it does.
Now, the church is going to have a visitation. I do believe that. We're going to rise and shine. But the world is being prepped for the Antichrist.
Yes.
It's got to become a lawless place in order for them to embrace a man of lawlessness.
Yeah.
And it's going to spin darker and darker and darker and darker out of control. We're here to help. But you know what? In 2 Thessalonians chapter 4, it talks about the great restrainer.
Right.
And it says a moment will come when the great restrainer will be removed from the midst of everything. And when you read it in the Greek, it literally means the great restrainer, whatever it is, it's everywhere and it's in everything. It's us.
Right.
And a moment's coming when we're all going to be removed from all the places where we are. And the Bible says in the Greek, and then at that exact synchronized moment, that wicked one will be revealed.
Right.
So we will really not know his identity.
That's right.
As long as we're here.
It's a waste of time to try to, and there are so many good candidates.
There are. And you know what? He may be in the wings waiting right now.
You know, I believe that he is. I believe when you say that we're living in the world of the Antichrist, we never set dates, but we set seasons.
We're living in the season.
We're living in that season.
That's right.
And there's no, and the end formally began in 1948.
It did.
And we're 76 years into it. And Jesus said the generation that sees that will see all things fulfilled, but we don't know how to define a generation.
And Jesus gave two big signs, Israel,
That's right.
and as it was in the days of Noah.
That's
and
right.
they both reappeared in May 1948.
That's the connection. That's amazing.
You know what L.A. Marzulli said to me?
What?
He said, yeah, and the Roswell event occurred in 47.
Wow.
He said all these alien interactions, the birth of Israel, the reappearance of the ark, it all started about the same time. I think that these are not coincidences.
No, not at all. And that's what I love about your book and these kinds of issues is it's connecting the ancient truths of the Bible to the reality of what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. Because that's what Jesus said. It happened, then it's going to happen again. And that's what we see in real time. And it's documented. This is not, and you've done such a great job in your book.
Well, thank you.
And when you said, about you being respected, you're one of the most respected Bible teachers in the world.
Well, thank you.
Well, you
Jeremy.
are. You really are. And I'm honored to have you on the show. Fallen Angels, Giants, Monsters in the World Before the Flood. And the subtitle is How the Events of Noah's Ark and the Flood Are Relevant to the End of the Age. And so, Rick, they can get this on Amazon?
Amazon, or they can go to Renner.org.
Renner.org. And Renner.org has your books. It has all the information about your ministry.
Yes, everything's there.
You have a wonderful television program. And
thank you.
And you're on TV all over the world. And you have a Russian network.
I have two Russian networks.
Yeah.
And
so
I sure do.
So if a person's out there and they're Russian speaking, where do they go?
They go to gnctv.org.
gnctv.org.
Mm-hmm.
But for everyone else who wants to watch your TV show, can they watch it on YouTube? Can they watch it on Renner.org?
Yeah, or Daystar. I mean, we're on so many different networks. But if they go to Renner.org, they can find all the places where they can see our program. And they can watch it right on our channel.
Well, I want to encourage everybody to go on Rick's website to get this book. It's a phenomenal book. Rick, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I want you to come back. You have promised me to come back.
I will. Thank you for having me.
God bless you. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to go now to the subscriber-only portion, and I have Bill Koenig joining me. Bill was a White House correspondent for many years, and he is an expert on world events, but also on Israel. He is very involved in an effort right now against the United Nations and against the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice, and he's going to be talking about that. But there's an effort to remove 500,000 Israelis from Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. And so he's going to be talking about that and more about Israel. So I want you to stay tuned. Now, if you're not a subscriber of endtimes.com, go there right now. endtimes.com, $7 a month. You can be a subscriber, $77 a year. We would love to have you. You get all the Tipping Point Show and everything else that we do through the week. And we have several podcasts, breaking news, all kinds of things that we have for you. $7 a month. But if you're a subscriber, stay tuned. I'll be right back with Bill Koenig.